Hey everybody, how's it going? Chris here. So today I wanted to do a little quick video talking about whether to mix with audio files or MIDI files. And if you don't know what the difference is, MIDI is basically pieces of data that you enter in on your keyboard, whether it be on the piano or your computer. So when you press a note or play a key, a little piece of data is entered into the system, which will then trigger a specific sample in the library that you're currently using. So let's say I have a string library loaded in and I wanted to play a C, right? So I just play a C on my keyboard, which is hooked up to the computer, and then would activate a C in that library, a recorded C in the strings. In terms of mixing though, you'll find yourself in two situations. Either you're mixing your own music or you'll be mixing a client's or someone else's, right? And so let's just talk about each one separately. If we're mixing with MIDI files, a good thing about that is that you have a lot of flexibility, right? So let's say you come across a bad note somewhere. Let's say the client sent you some files, and one of the notes was out of pitch, or they just played it in wrong and they kind of went over it without noticing it. You can then go into that block and literally just drag that MIDI file up or down to drag it to the correct pitch. Or let's say they had this long solo line in a flute or an oboe, right? And then let's say one note poked out a little too much and it was too harsh. You can then click on that note and go to its velocity and literally drag it down so it's not so harsh, you know? But I would say that's really the only good thing about MIDI when it comes to mixing, especially when it comes to mixing other people's music. You can see here in my project, most of this is audio files. And the only reason I have MIDI files here is because I just use these first tracks, the first tracks in the contact instances to record my instruments. But then when I tried to bounce it to audio, the sound quality degraded and it just wasn't as good, whereas the other ones didn't do that. So I'm finding a workaround around this. So, that's the only reason I have the audio files there. But the good thing about audio files is basically you're committed to whatever you've already produced. So, before mixing, you should already be going over the arrangement and just making sure everything sounds good and there's nothing that really sticks out as bad to you, no wrong notes or anything like that. And if there are, you should have already fixed that in the production phase. When it comes to mixing, it should only be, listening to the balance of the instruments and just making them sound as good as they could possibly be, not fidgeting around with notes and dragging them up and down and changing the velocities and things of that nature. And so, with audio, you're basically committed to the certain performance that you already put in, that you produced. Another thing is that it saves a lot of processing power on your computer. So with MIDI files, each time you play through the project, like the MIDI files will basically have to trigger the sample over and over, So let's say I played through this section here twice, then every single time the MIDI file has to activate that sample twice, right? But if I have an audio file, it's already printed, and so basically it's just a copy of that performance, and so it's already it's already there, so you don't have to trigger anything. It's already printed. So that's another upside of this. So if you had to ask me what I prefer, I would definitely say I prefer mixing with audio. I think the main reason is because it saves on the CPU. And if you didn't know, my setup is basically a MacBook Pro from 2012, so quite a long time ago. But if I find myself mixing with MIDI, then it starts to crash my computer a little bit. It lags and it's just not as efficient. So mixing with audio, I think, is definitely a good idea. So hopefully that helps demystify just a little bit. If you have any questions, please let me know. Again, mixing with audio is one of those things that will save you quite a bit of time, especially if you don't have the most up-to-date system and you don't have slaves and all that stuff, and lots of RAM as I don't. So hopefully that helps. Let me know in the comments what you prefer and why, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video.